Yeah.
Okay, we're going.
Are you Rob? Hi. I'm good. How are you? Do you want to make a comment on how you helped start an event that invited Super Happy Fun America and Marks of Haiti? Yes.
I actually had nothing to do with this event.
You didn't, but your girlfriend did organize it, correct?
Actually, no, she was asking.
Do you have a problem with Super Happy Fun America being here?
Do I have a problem with what?
Super Happy Fun America, one of the speakers that was asked to come here.
I didn't hear that.
Marks of Haiti.
I wasn't here for that, so I couldn't.
But are you okay with that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know what Super Happy Fun America is? Well, then don't you think you probably should know?
No.
I did just ask a normal question.
I'm not talking about this. I'm just saying, like, you guys came, right? Because you want to make a point, which is completely appreciated, right? It's a free country, but we should be talking.
Okay, I was talking to him. I can get to you in a minute when I'm done. So, you just no. I mean, I'm just saying because you're at an event. You're at an event.
Okay, so I think the answer would be is that you know that you disagree with me, and I know that I disagree with you. And in my opinion, that's perfectly okay. We're allowed to disagree. So I respectfully disagree with the overall idea of why I think you're maybe here today. And that's all I'm going to say to you, no matter what you ask me. So why don't you just...
So you don't want to say anything about Super Happy Fun America?
Nice seeing you.
Do you
I'm glad
support
you're out here
them?
enjoying the sunshine with the rest of us. Have a nice day.
Okay.
Family event.
Okay, all I did was walk up and ask a person a question. I'm totally allowed to do that. What have I done that's not peaceful?
Did you ask his permission to record him?
I don't have to. This is a public place. Go ahead, you can record me. Hi, my name is Rita Fiorello. Hi. I don't care. Hi, that's lovely.
I don't mind, I'm just recording.
I didn't come up. I came up and asked him a question. He obviously knows who I am, correct?
I have no idea.
Well, he did. He knew me by name. So I asked him a question, and I didn't. That's it. He doesn't want to talk anymore. Fine. So is there a problem? So is there a problem?
To this conversation, the question to you generally was, if you guys came to this event, right?
I came to observe. That's it.
Okay, so
I'm allowed to do that, right? It's a freedom festival, right?
That's correct.
So it's free for me to come here, right?
have a conversation about something
With you?
meaningful.
I don't really know you, so not especially.
That's fine. That's fine.
I mean, if you want to ask me something, you can.
I'm trying to understand what the purpose of this whole thing is. Like, why did this whole group of people came?
I mean, I can't speak for everybody. I came here. I came here. I arranged it?
Yeah, you brought some.
Wow, dude, I'm so cool in everybody's heads. This is my kid. I brought my child here. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I didn't bring anybody. Did we bring anybody else? No, I just came. Yeah. So I really don't understand what you're getting at. And I didn't say you were mad, I just don't understand what you're getting at.
Doesn't look mad to me.
I didn't say she was mad. I didn't say the word mad.
Interaction thing. I'm just curious. Like, you know, when people come and try to mute the speakers, for example, is there a purpose? Like,
I mean, it's a freedom festival, right?
so why are they muting people who are speaking?
I mean, you should probably go ask them because I didn't do that.
I know. This is,
I mean, I can't speak for what everybody is doing. I mean, honestly, you guys, are you aware who Super Happy Fun America is?
I'm aware of, I don't know.
Okay, because they're legit a hate group and a white supremacist group.
Have you spoken to anybody from?
Yes, actually, I have. And they're a pretty famous group. They're the ones that ran the Straight Pride Parade in Boston. The Straight Pride Parade in Boston.
Bad thing?
Yes.
Really?
You don't think that the Straight Pride Parade was a bad thing?
Is it not a bad thing, right? But this thing is bad.
I didn't say. I said the Straight Pride Parade was bad.
I know, but there's also a gay parade. Is that a bad thing too?
No.
So why is it straight?
Because straight people don't need a parade. They're not oppressed.
You get to decide who needs what.
If you think it's okay to have a Straight Pride Parade, then that's your prerogative. No, I don't get to decide. I get to decide whether I like it or not.
Right.
Okay, so what's the problem?
Why do you get to decide to call them a hate group?
Because no, they're literally designated as a hate group.
Who designated them?
You guys can go look at. I mean, Google is your friend. Google is your friend.
I agree with that. Google is not my
Seriously?
friend.
I mean, you're asking me, why don't you do a little bit of research on that
I've
group?
done more than enough research. Listen.
On Super Happy Fun America?
On everything. And what I
On everything.
Yeah, on everything that you
She's a
guys
rogue scholar, dude.
This is Google,
Clearly
actually.
hate group. I mean, seriously. Who designated? Do you know I was?
So see, now I can at least understand the question a little bit more.
I know you said Google wasn't your friend, but you looked it up and it
You can watch the videos and see the things that they've done.
some people from this group, and they seem so.
And also, do you know who Diana Ploss is?
Yes, I've met. I've met.
Yeah, so, you know, a lot of her people are here too, and she was also involved in that group. Are you aware of what she's up
The
to?
problem is you're trying to affiliate me with a group that you clearly
No, I'm asking you if you are and how you feel about it. I gave you I didn't just,
don't know them. But what I would say is again, the point is that people wanted to come out and just enjoy the weather.
With the
and
little
just-
kids.
But you're, I mean, I didn't bother anybody. Okay, and honestly, you can say that everyone just wants to come here and enjoy the weather, but when hate groups are invited to speak at the events, I mean, you're at this event because you're here to enjoy the event, and you guys invited Super Happy Fun America.
I didn't invite anybody to anything.
Yeah, nobody.
Don't you know that Sam was a huge supporter and she was all over the place putting this out, right?
Did I know that?
Yeah. So I'm just saying. So you have but there's no connection. And there shouldn't be any connection drawn between her or you with Super Happy Fun America or Moxa Haiti or any of the other speakers that you had here.
Stop is people labeling people without knowing what they're talking about.
I know what I'm talking about. I know who Super Happy Fun America is. You don't.
I don't know who's asking you. I would
But,
not. I would
but we would never. Okay, and I would say that would be a disgrace for someone to ask you that because that's not fair for them to label you that way. But right now, the questions are being asked. I can't speak for anybody who's not in this conversation. Myself and herself are not that way. I wouldn't ask you that. So for me to have been labeled things like a white supremacist or a bigot by people, actually by you exactly.
Who did I call? Did I call you a white
Me,
supremacist?
on Facebook, I have it.
I called you a white supremacist?
And a bigot.
I never called you a white
On
supremacist.
everything Carver, it got taken down. I have it.
I'm not on everything, Carver.
Oh, that's right. You went through Jill Sheridan.
I didn't go through anyone. I post things and people just post
But
them.
the point being,
I never called him a white. I never called him a white
the
supremacist.
point being is that nobody has a problem with anybody here. I don't understand what the issue is, and yes, you were invited, and yes, your children were invited.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that the Straight Pride Parade was like a cool thing, or do you think it was something that was? Or do you think that was on? Yes, that's the Super Happy Fun America people. Like, do you think that was a cool thing?
Everyone should have a right to speak their mind and accept.
Oh, no, they do, but I'm asking, and do you think that that's in bad taste? Like, in your personal opinion, how do you feel about the
I really
situation?
don't know the situation, so I don't know.
You don't know about the Straight Pride?
wasn't
You don't know?
here, and I
No. It wasn't. It happened here. The Straight Pride Parade was like a huge thing. It happened like a couple of years ago. Are you not aware of that?
Okay. And I haven't been to one, and I
my
don't know
point
about
is,
it, so
so
I'm not going to
Mark
speak
is
on
here,
it.
right? So have you spoken to him, for example?
No.
It's a chance to just speak like humans.
I don't want to speak. And but I am just speaking like humans. But you acted like I came over here and wasn't being polite.
Can I just tell you? So, for example, like I see a sign, Black Lives Matter. To me, for example, this is a really bad organization. Not the person standing behind the sign, the organization, right? Because what I know about the financial dealings, right, behind the scenes, to me, this is not a good organization, right? But now, I don't know you at all, right? So I don't assume that you are, like a new person or that
So does the Black Lives Matter do a lot of good as an organization?
I don't think so, because the way I would, what would make me think that they do a lot of good things? If I heard that they just reinvested all the crazy amount of donations that they received, if I heard that instead of sending it to DNC, right, the Democratic Party, if I heard that this money went to communities, the black communities, I would be all over them. I would be contributing to them. But I haven't seen any evidence of that. Do you see what I mean? So it has nothing to do with what, like, I don't care about news, what news are telling me. I want to see action, right? I want to see real
There's
people.
politics behind it.
Of course, and that's what I don't like, exactly.
But does Black Lives Matter bring awareness to the causes? Like Breonna Taylor.
I think they distract
I think they may have. I think they may have.
That's crazy to say that. I live in. I'm sorry, but I live in a town not too far from here, Plymouth, and we've seen on middle class Plymouth now Black Lives Matter signs where you didn't see them there 10, 15 years, or even 5 years ago. It's part of almost like mainstream America now to accept that Black Lives Matter and to accept that black people are treated differently by our system than white people. And I've seen it. I've seen it at my own.
Because I wouldn't make any conclusions about, for example, I didn't know, for example, until I heard from the black community about the community in the community that nobody wants to solve, right? The black crime. I didn't know about it, so I'm kind of grateful for this in terms of like bringing a bigger conversation. But I wouldn't affiliate with the group because I don't believe that they are there for the good cause.
Absolutely.
Well, I hope
Well, what
you're
about
right,
what
but I
about just
don't believe
the
so.
general idea of Black Lives Matter, organization aside?
So hold on, wait.
There's
So
no-
in other words,
there's
the
no-
idea of the life of a person
Yeah.
of black color matters.
Yeah, like would you,
100%.
organization aside, would you say that Black Lives
100%.
Matter?
I guess
Well, it's not just about that. It's about systemic racism. It was really a point to bring up the fact that there's systemic racism and police brutality against black people.
Like, are you all lives matter?
Guys, this is what I think is happening. This is just kind of a general thing, right? Your life and my life and your life and any person that we can
Everyone's
find of color life, right? Right now, it's has nothing to do with the color. It has to do with our economic status. If you are
Oh, socioeconomic class is absolutely a part of it. I agree with
If
you.
you're not in the top 0.01%, unfortunately, I hate to say that, but our lives don't matter. And what I mean by that,
I understand what you're saying.
and please don't, you know.
No, I totally understand. I'm not
I really mean
I understand
well,
what you're
right?
saying.
So, for example, you guys are wearing a mask because you truly probably believe, right, that it's a good thing, right? And I don't want to dissuade you, right? I mean, you have your right to do your research and do whatever, right? From what I know, and I can actually, there's a friend of mine who's an EPA OSHA hygienist of 30 plus years, right? So she literally is the person who teaches doctors about masks, how to wear them, what to do, right? She designs the ventilation systems. Like, I go to her, right, for advice. Like, should I wear a mask? Because, you know, I discovered that I couldn't wear a mask, right? So I felt like I was fainting, right? So I wanted to do research. Like, I didn't want to just follow some stereotypical advice, right? Because in my life, all medical advice that I was given generally was sort of like an average person advice, right? But it never worked on me, so I went further. Like, I had to find a chiropractor to fix my migraine, right? Because for 15 years I was suffering like debilitating headaches, right? And my well-meaning, wonderful doctor, right, who really is a nice person, but she wasn't educated enough to help me, right? So I went further. I found a chiropractor, right, and they actually fixed it. So when I look at whatever subject is, right, let's say a mask, I don't want a politician to tell me to wear a mask. I don't think a politician has a place to tell me to wear a mask. You see what I mean? But an OSHA specialist, right, who's a friend of mine, who has my best interest in mind, I trust her, right? And it's not because, again, like, you know, you could say, well, I trust my doctor. I completely understand that, but was your doctor ever educated about this, right? Like, do they really know? Like, for example, my friend.
Well, I mean, most medical providers say that we should wear masks. And you're always going to find people that have a different opinion or the opinion that you want to have.
I know what you're saying.
But the vast majority says that you
How
should.
do they get that information? So let me tell you a quick story, right? So I knew nothing about vaccines, right? Like in 2017 or 2018, I stumbled on a documentary. I knew nothing, literally. I couldn't care less. I was vaccinated, whatever, right? But I found this documentary that raised a lot of questions for me that I didn't know the answers to, right? I was like, I don't really know the answer to this question, right? Like, I didn't know that vaccine manufacturers didn't have any liability, for example, right? So if you get injured, you can't sue them. Like, you can sue anybody for anything, right? Like, if you know,
But you do agree that vaccines, like, pretty much saved the world on many occasions? About, like, polio and...
No. I have
No.
been for 4 years, and this is why I'm saying that I wouldn't have known what I know, right? Unless I went sort of against not against, but sort of like said, wait,
like measles and stuff, that vaccines. So if there was no vaccine for polio and measles, everything would have just been fine?
Yes, because when vaccine came out, the infections were almost at zero. You should really look into archives. So this is government data. This is not something that I came up with or somebody came up with. This is the actual.
I mean, polio came out as an emergency, and they tested it on school children when in like the height of the pandemic. And that is research that I've done. So I mean, you can do research and you can find the information that you want to find. When you go look, it's going to be all different information from different people.
I agree with you, but look. So here's, for example, 2018, right? December 2018, I got a call from a friend who had Crohn's. It's an autoimmune condition.
I know.
Right? You're not supposed to do vaccines with any autoimmune conditions, but they barely ever tell you that. They just, whatever. You know, the system is set up to vaccinate because it makes a lot of money, and like I said, the manufacturers pay so much to news media. Like, there's like 70 to 80% income stream, right? So it's very, very unlikely you're gonna hear it on the news ever. Okay? But here's the deal. So a friend of mine, 29 years old, with Crohn's, worked with Brigham and Women's Hospital. She gets a flu shot because they say, look, if you don't get it, we can suspend you, right? So she gets it because she just feels like, you know, she doesn't want to lose a job, right? And, you know, she's a nice girl, she, you know, whatever, you know, and she's a scientist, right, mind you. Now, because of her Crohn's, she did a lot of research. She actually did, like, she switched to organic food. She actually contained her Crohn's really well without medication, right, for a few years. Because before she was on meds, but it wasn't really working, so she was searching for other remedies. So she gets better. She starts kind of understanding, okay, there's a way to fix things, right? And right smack in sort of in that period, right, where she's stressed out, she's just moving or whatever, you know, she gets a flu shot. She gets really sick, and this is not the first time she gets sick after a flu shot. But this time it's like really heavy. So for 3 weeks she was not eating, not sleeping, not, you know, just a lot of things go wrong, right? She's like, it's just, sorry, like really bad kind of thing. So she goes to the hospital herself, right, to see what's wrong with her. She thinks it's like the Crohn's flaring out, right? And for 3 days she was there. She basically was like going through, you know, antivirals, broad-spectrum antibiotics, antifungals, like they're just giving her everything by protocol, right? Because it's a protocol, right? And so basically day, whatever, 3, I saw her I just saw something funny with her eyes, you know, like they crossed in a very strange way. And I told her mother, I said, you know, maybe you should come because they live in like a different state. So thank God she came because she got like 2 days with her while she was still okay. And then basically Monday she goes for another MRI and she had to drink a lot of gadolinium, which is toxic. It's a contrast, right? So that last day, right, she comes and I mean the last MRI she comes from, she can't pull the fork anymore. She's basically in a very strange, like she doesn't talk. So all of a sudden, right? So by the time I got there, she was super stiff. Like you couldn't get any reaction out of her. Like her head is falling backwards like a palsy, you know. So we're all freaking out. We don't know what to do, you know. And the doctors are, oh, there's no doctors yet. Like the nurse is saying, oh, she's fine. Like don't worry. Well, like no, she's clearly not fine, right? So anyway, so within like literally 2 or 3 hours, she starts like arching her back in pain, like shooting arrows out of her limbs, like something is really bad. Long story short, that night she what do you call it? Like basically she went into a coma. For 3.5 weeks she was in a coma. She emerged from coma non-verbal, physically incapacitated. She had acute encephalitis, right? The swelling of the brain. Do you know flu shot insert lists that as a common adverse reaction? And my problem, right, with the system is, well, when you go for an appointment, right, like I'm sure you've been to doctors so many times, right? Did your pediatrician or doctor or anybody ever say, just so you know, on the insert, you may want to read it first of all, right? Like I don't think anybody suggests to read an insert. And secondly, you know, encephalitis is a possibility, right? So especially if you have another autoimmune condition, maybe you shouldn't be getting a flu shot. Like barely anybody.
Well, I mean, her doctor failed her if she had a pre-existing condition, and the doctor didn't say, "Hey, this could be a problem for you."
I feel like most
That's a problem.
doctors are failing, right? Because they don't even know to say it. That's my point. That the system does not educate them, right, to give you that informed consent. Do you see what I mean?
I mean, that's like a broad swipe just because of your experience with one person and
Tell me
one
your
doctor.
experience. Like, have you ever been told about?
I mean, honestly, I'm very well aware that any type of medication can have an adverse reaction.
No, but I mean, have you heard about specifically, like? Say,
I mean, at this point, yeah, the vaccines it's a huge conversation. So I mean, I live in the world. I hear what's going on, you know. I mean, you couldn't not know at this point that.
Yeah, no, I guess what I'm saying is basically, if they're not giving you informed consent here, right? They're not giving you informed consent about masks. Like I know the masks actually reduce your oxygen by like 20%, right? So why, for example, like you know, like if I come over, right, and I do something to you, right? Like I don't know, I push you over, right? You're like, oh, right? Yeah, like your defense mechanism kicks in. You're like, wait, don't touch me, right? But if people say put a mask on, right? Like with good intentions, and you put it on, but it's hurting you.
I'm totally fine with my mask on. I'm sorry, I'm totally fine.
It's hurting people's health. Like it's actually reducing your immune system, right? And you can't really measure it because like nobody.
I honestly, I'm sorry, but I beg to disagree with you.
The mask happens, but like legit trouble is it's such a small group of people. Like we've been wearing them all. I'm wearing 2 right now. I'm totally fine.
I know, and my heart hurts a little.
Yeah,
I'm literally fine.
yeah, we're good.
Like I breathe
Can you
fine.
measure the oxygen? I mean, it's like, you know, it's one of those things that, look, I'm happy that you're not fainting, because I was literally fainting. Like, I was, you know, like...
I also have asthma, and I smoke a pack of cigarettes a day, too, and I can still breathe in my mask.
But tell me why. What is your understanding of sort of the scientific...
I understand that masks aren't a be-all, end-all fixer of all situations.
Right.
But it does help to stop the spread of contagion.
What suggested that to you? Like, which study do you read? Because there's no, like,
You want me to name study? I mean, I don't know the names of studies.
Yeah, no, because we looked. Like, I looked.
I mean, the CDC and the World Health Organization.
But have they given you proof? They told you to do something. Like, first they told you don't wear a mask. Like, Fauci was like, yeah, they're useless. They like psychologically kind of like, no, right? Like, that was his first message. Like,
I mean, I don't have any actual titles of things that I've read, but yes, I've read, and like, again, you're gonna read stuff and you're gonna find people that are saying the things that you want to hear, and I'm gonna read things.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No.
I really appreciate it. That's amazing.
And I'm gonna find things that I want to hear, and honestly, I do purposely go out and try to find stuff that's the opposite of what I'm looking for. And at the end of the day, do I fucking trust the government 100%? Obviously fucking not, dude. Obviously not.
Yeah.
But in this particular case, I do feel, especially, you know, maybe not outside, but
Can I give you something?
Yes,
So
I'm collecting
collected
information.
A bunch of research. So this last link tree, there's just a bunch of doctors like from Canada, from Europe, from US that are talking about their research, right? So they very well-meaning, experienced people who are not getting paid by some magic, alternative thing, right?
And part of the reason I have a problem with this is because it's not just the wearing of the masks. It's everything is communism, and making you wear a mask is communism, and they're just doing it for control. I don't feel like any of my individuality has been taken away.
Can I tell you? So I was born in Moscow, right, in Russia, and so I was born in '81. So it's not like I didn't really live through the.
Oh, I was born in '81 too.
So basically, like my parents really are the ones who really kind of experienced it as adults, right? I mean, like I was sort of like a baby, right? But the whole idea, right, is that look, if you do something that is not approved, right, by like the sort of the mainstream, let's just call it, right? And in Russian case, of course, it was the government, right? Again, even if it didn't look like it was coming from the government, it was coming from the government, right? Because they would basically think about this way, like if there's like an opposition of some sort, you bet anything that either the government started it under the pretense of being opposition, or they infiltrated it, right? That was the whole model, right? Because they wanted to keep tabs on everyone.
Mm-hmm.
That's
KGB,
China, right? Like they want to control you. Now you have all this technology you can control people, right? Like you have, I don't know if you ever looked into Elsa McDowell. She
I don't know who she is.
Of research about fourth industrial revolution, technocracy. Basically she's looking into, it's called human capital impact investments. So it's like this whole new direction, well not new, but newish direction in finance. Basically is using people, right, as commodity. Right? So essentially, for example, let's say it looks super good on the surface, right? Like it might be like, oh, we're gonna go into this school, right? And we're gonna make sure that all the kids in the school are, like primed for success, right? Whatever the metric of success is, right? Doesn't matter. So they might say, okay, we're going to give everybody like a little tracking device. We're going to see how much they're interacting with this, like with this child, or like, basically it looks very innocent because it looks like they're just trying to get some intel, right? To help these kids' future or something like this. Well, in fact, it's about creating like a financial, what do you call it? You know how you can securitize things, right? Like you can basically create a financial instrument out of something. Like for example, I could say, I'm going to bet, right? I'm going to make a bet that this person is going to become, I don't know, an alcoholic. Like, if I'm a really dark person, right? I'm going to make a, right? And another person might say, well, I'm going to bet that they're not going to become an alcoholic, right? And we make a financial instrument out of it, right? And we literally trade it on a market. I mean, it sounds so cynical and so incredibly dark, right? But that's the premise of the human capital investment. So here's the problem. Her name is Alison McDowell, Dowell.
Like McDowell's,
yeah, probably.
like Coming to America McDowell.
I'm not from this country, so
I'll remember it now because of that, actually.
Yeah. So she's really fantastic, and she's just a mom. Like she lives in Philly, right? She was really disturbed about the closing schools. Like they were doing this whole school privatization thing, and she was just starting research, trying to understand like why they're closing like 12, 13 schools, or even like more schools. And she started looking into like how did they figure, because there was some Boston consulting group that went into Philly, and it's a very poor poor area, and Wharton is right next door, and they do all these like they play with people. You see, like they play with different models and like how we're going to basically use again people to make them into tradable, or you know what I mean? Like it's very honestly, it's really dark, and it's like from the first time that I heard it, I was like, oh god, right? But it's really worth looking into just to understand kind of the bigger picture of how technology is being used, right? And how, sorry, I hope you understand what I'm saying. Like I'm not against anyone's notions, like Black Lives Matter, of course, right? Like whatever the movement that people bring up to my attention, right? I figured there's an issue, right? That's what people are saying about it. But I also am guessing that somebody's probably using that group in their own interest, right?
Well, that's just human nature.
I get it.
Oh, I'm very well aware of that.
So my point is,
I don't join groups. I'm more of a free agent type of person.
I'm very happy to hear that.
I don't always play well with others either, so I don't in groups.
Yeah, I get it. But that's the thing. So my thought is like a lot of things that are happening right now, especially with drama and emotion, right, is about distracting from what's happening with the whole restructuring of the world, right? Like resetting the monetary system, resetting the economic system, right? Driving a lot of small businesses out of business, right? And a lot of this, unfortunately to me, is basically saying, you are like an underage child. We're gonna tell you where we want you. You see what I mean? Like I feel like if you're an adult, right? You're 18 and you get to decide if you want to wear a mask, not wear a mask. If you want to get a vaccine, not get.
But I mean, you already are, because there's no solid law anywhere that says that you have to.
That's where it's going. that's why
There never has been. And I have experience with it. There's nobody.
Yeah, no one. We had it in our town. No one.
No, there's nothing anybody can do about it. So.
I mean, like you sitting here with none and us standing here with it means that we totally have freedom of choice in these masks.
right
Yeah.
now. But do you know, for example, so my family, my father's family lives in Russia, right? So I want to go visit them, right? And I have my cousins having a baby. I'm so excited, right? I'm not sure I'm going to make it to Moscow.
Are they forcing masks on? Are they doing that? I don't know.
Even choose to get into the plane, right? Just to go to the airport, I have to wear a mask, and I literally last 5 minutes.
Well, I mean, that's a private business. That's capitalism.
No, it's a place of public accommodation. That's a law, actually. Do you know? Nobody knows this law. Like even police doesn't know this law. There's a Massachusetts public accommodation law that states that any gas station, store, any place basically where general public is expected, right, to be a customer, they cannot discriminate against you.
No, they can't. So I know I actually do know this law.
Yeah.
As long as they provide you with an alternative way to get what you're looking for, it is
For example,
legal.
Let's say, oh, I'll shop for you, right? Like I'll go grocery shop for you. I can't. I'm very specific in my shopping. We'll be there all day. Like they will literally have to become my.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's unfortunate.
No, but I mean,
But,
this
I mean-
shouldn't be the case at all. It's completely unreasonable.
Why can't? Do you mind if I ask you
Yeah.
why exactly you can't wear a mask?
Because I'm fainting from it. Like I literally, when I rebreathe, I guess. First of all,
What kind of mask were you wearing?
Any mask. I had cloth mask. I had whatever
The medical
blue
ones.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like any. First of all, these guys they have really big holes in them, so all the viruses go right through it. Right? It's not even like there's no point in it.
It's not even just. It's not so much about 100% about the air. Like this was already discussed at the beginning. Why I think this conversation going back, not between me and you, but just in general, is that it was more in like spit. You were more likely to catch it from spit, right? So, do you notice how many people spit when they talk? It's pretty fucking gross, right? So like the spit from my mouth is less likely to fall in your eyeball.
And the medical masks,
They
like,
did-
the
they
three
also,
layers are made specifically for that.
Right, but how do you look? So wait. So all this time, right? They told us to wear one mask, and they said that was sufficient, right? So do you see the problem there? That all this time, right? When
Well, I mean, nothing. Science is never an exact science. It's constantly changing.
It's just about masks, right? Like they didn't make better masks or worse masks, right? It's like
But science works on percentages and likelihoods and statistical
and this virus
data.
has a 99.9%
So,
survival rate.
right.
That's
Yeah, but I mean, just
That's
it's
still
not.
millions of people.
But millions of people still died, and a lot of people who got sick and are having lasting side effects.
Hold on, wait a minute. Because this whole time they've been saying you're right. They're talking about spit coming out of your mouth. More importantly, they talked about if you cough, even if it's just a common cold, but God forbid you have COVID and you cough, the mask stopping and projecting out. But then they since then have done all kinds of data to say that when that happens, the velocity at which the particles are going to go out the side of your mask are much higher through a smaller opening, and they're going to go further in more directions, and it's actually causing exactly. If you put the same volume in the same time frame through a smaller hole, you're multiplying over and over again, multiplying your velocity.
Well, that's why they say get a mask that fits you, that covers your face and doesn't have huge openings on the sides. So there is a reason then why they say wear two, because so wearing two and having one that fits.
The only way that they're going to stop 100% of anything is make it so you can't breathe. So that's never going to happen 100%.
No, and nobody wants that to happen, but I don't think it's too much to ask to make a small concession.
Well, let's say something new. Let's say a new development, because the masks is old. The new development is the vaccine. Okay. So honestly, I don't know it off the top of my head. Somebody tell me what the current effectiveness percentage-wise of the vaccine.
Well, most of the they don't really stop the vaccine. It doesn't really stop you from getting it.
Exactly.
I know what that is. It stops you
It's like mild
from
disease,
getting it.
right?
Yeah, from getting it really bad. Yeah, or dying. That's what it is.
Can I tell you?
So, but now that everybody's going to be vaccinated, and they're going to have people do that, they're going to tell you get 2 shots, have 2 vaccines, risk something similar to.
Well, it's one vaccine. It just isn't. It's in two. It's in 2 doses.
In
Yeah.
most cases. And then they're going to say, okay, well now it should be safe for you. You're not going to, even if you contract it, you're not going to spread it, and it's not going to be anywhere near as severe. So we should be able to go back to normal, and you shouldn't have to wear 2 masks anymore. But they're not saying that. They're saying, well, we're not sure. We might be able to do something by like 2022 or maybe 2023.
Well, I mean, at this point, what percentage of the population is even vaccinated? Like 10%? Like not even that.
But no, but to get, that's a whole other conversation about what you need for herd immunity and all that. But the point being is, we've talked an awful lot.
We could have had herd immunity in
long
April.
Yeah, but herd immunity, then you let the freaking, then
sacrificing.
you let, yeah, a lot of people are gonna get killed, and then on top of it, when you let the virus run wild like that, it changes and morphs and it can become something way worse. And it is doing that, but it could have been way worse if it was just a free for all.
I have to send you this information. So there's a lawsuit out of Ohio. It's basically challenging the whole state of emergency, right? Like the root of sort of why we're here, right? Like why we're doing all of this. Because basically all of these things are under emergency use authorization use, right? So basically, like if there was no emergency authorization use, PCR tests would not be allowed to be used as diagnostic tests because they're not diagnostic. It's only because it's emergency, state of emergency, that we're sort of like going with like throwing everything in the sink, you know, like just kind of like just trying whatever, right, our best. Now, this lawsuit alleges that there is no state of emergency.
No,
because
thank
thank you, sorry, I have some water. Thank you. And so what they're doing is they're basically saying, look, we ask for all the numbers, you know, for example, let's say PCR test, right? So PCR test was designed by Karen Millis, and Millis himself said in 2019 that this is not a diagnostic tool. This is not to figure out if somebody's sick or not, right? It's basically showing you some debris of DNA or RNA, right? That if you take something, like I said, take a sample, right? Then I put it in front or on the PCR test. If I have one cycle amplification, which means basically it's like I multiply like I blow it up, right? So if I multiply it, let's say once, right? One cycle, I don't really see much, right? So let's say I need to amplify it 10 times, right? And then I see kind of clearly, okay, I see some sequences, right? I can kind of recognize it, right? Now, the top cycle count that is sort of allowed in order to actually be able to say, okay, this person seems to have a lot of something, right? We don't know if that means that they're sick, but just a lot of something, right? Like we can observe it. That count is something around like 20, right? Let's say 17, 20, like there's some variance of opinion, right?
Bye, guys.
So basically the standard has been set like by all the companies there's like 100 companies that are doing PCR testing, right? The standard has been set at like 40 and 45 cycles. Kerry Willis himself was saying anything above like 20, 25 is completely meaningless because you will find anything at that level of amplification. You will literally find anything, right? So PCR test itself is under huge question, right? As a diagnostic. The way that the deaths have been recorded is a huge question, right? Because people literally, first of all, not people. So pneumonia, influenza, and COVID have been combined into a single category. That's why you don't see any flu, not because people are wearing a mask.
See, and there is flu though. I know people who have the flu. My boyfriend was not my boyfriend, but my ex-boyfriend got sick in the middle of all of this, and we thought he had COVID, and he went in and got a test, and they said, no, you have the flu. So when people tell me that nobody's coming down with the flu and everyone that has the flu is being called COVID, it's not true.
If you look at the official statistics, like it looks like it's zero, which makes no sense.
The point is that it is out there and people are getting it. Absolutely, you're absolutely right.
Like
the problem is they're not reporting it as the flu; they're reporting it as other things. That concept, I do not have the answer exactly as to why. I'm not going to speculate, but that concept is a little scary because people have been diagnosed and statistically recorded as getting the flu X amount every year since we can remember.
And all of a sudden,
that's just not documented.
Well, I mean, you have less people out walking around and people with masks on, so less people are going to get the flu. Same thing how my cold season was not so bad this year because you had people staying home and not interacting as much in masks.
But we don't know the real answer. That's my point, right? So, like, for example, this lawsuit, right? Because you have a discovery, right? For a lawsuit, you basically request all this, like, FOIA, right? They put in all the requests for information. The government does not want to provide information. Think about it. If they have the real, like, the facts, right?
I mean, the government never wants to provide information.
No, but think about it for a second, right? Think about it. You are alleging, right, a governor of Ohio, right? You're saying, you, sir, are not telling us the truth, right? Like, as a citizen, you have a right to know, right, the facts. You're asking for FOIA. Now, you would think, right, that the guy would be like, of course I'm basing my decisions, right? My decisions to close businesses, to keep you all at home, right? To keep kids out of school, right? Of course I'm basing it on facts, right? And you would think he would be happy to provide you this information, to shut you up and show you, right, that you shouldn't be, like, you know, basically daring, right, to doubt the you know, whatever, right, accountability or responsibility, right? You would think so. Nothing. Zilch. That's a question in my mind, right? Why not? Why not answer the question?
Well, it's a legal case, right? Because a lot of times they
But
don't
you could
release
prevent
information
it
that
from
are
going.
involved in legal cases to the public. That might be honestly. I'm honestly that might be why.
Yes, other governors would like send them flowers, literally. If they could shut up this. Like,
But I mean, if there is an active legal case going on.
It's more of like, okay, so you file.
I mean, they asked for a legal discovery, right?
You file a complaint first, right? And then there's a whole process. So basically, they could literally nix the case, right, at the get-go, right?
I know, but once there's lawyers, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with like, I'm just saying, the world doesn't work that simply, even though it should. On so many times, you're like, why? I mean, even just our court systems are so freaking ridiculous. Like, it's just such a waste of time and money, the back and forth. Like, the court systems, how it's like a giant waste of time and money, the back and forth, the back and forth, the back and forth, the back and forth.
People in this group, by the way, who came to the freedom thing, do you know how many of them have had a personal encounter with like a DCF court? And the level of corruption is like...
Yeah, I've heard. I know that DCF has some fucking serious problems, so I'm not going to argue that with the DCF.
So my point is, like, basically when I'm so...
But that might, honestly, I'm just saying, and I don't know that for sure, but that legally, all the legalese involved in it, that might be why they're not doing that.
Next time, just talk to people, because there's so many interesting stories, right? Like real stories. Nobody's going to report them. No journals, because first of all, even if you have a journalist friend, right, and you say, can you please like report my story? Do you know how many like hoops and things they have to jump through? Yeah, you know what I mean? Like this story may never see the light of the day, right? But talking to people, nothing stops you from it, right? And I love that you're talking, because it's like it's typical thing. This whole year has been that there's this group and then there's that group and there's that group, and America's polarized and blah blah blah.
No, but a part of it is like we're having this conversation, okay? I've tried to have conversations in different settings with actually some people who are here. Usually it's mostly involving like Diana Ploss and her little circus sideshow that she walks around with, and it's beyond, they are not willing to have a conversation.
Because they go so far beyond the message.
Do you know what I'm saying?
People here, it's so much about being anti-black. And
yeah,
You know that Diana is anti-black? I mean, I would like really doubt it. I mean, I don't know her, but I mean, I've seen her videos. And
who are you talking
Diana?
about?
Diana. Yeah.
Dude,
Are you kidding me? I went to court this month because Diana punched me in the face.
Like,
no.
Yes. At our protest.
Yes. No, I'm very much involved with her. Like, I know. Honestly, there's probably nobody in the world right now that knows more about Diana Ploss and everything that she's doing than me.
She's just a huge bigot.
She became my hobby when my restaurant closed down and I didn't have anything to do.
Wait, she became what?
She became my hobby. And it wasn't like I went out looking for her.
Yeah.
She came to town and we were downtown and we couldn't even believe like how much of a monster she was. She like immediately turned the camera around on us and called us burn loot murderers.
She sent people
burn loot murderers. Her whole thing with BLM is she calls BLM burn loot murderers. And we were just like,
she sent people to harass me online for being transgender. Her whole thing when she talks about me and her, she calls me because like I'm a trans man. She'll be like, oh, Rita's daughter, she, her, she's confused.
She's like, no, she is a terrible. I know you might not think that she's. Did you not see her screaming at the landscapers for speaking Spanish?
Yeah. Oh yeah, she harassed.
Yeah.
Doing that.
So I'm just saying. So no, yes, she is an awful. I promise you, she is a disgusting, vile human being. Chris knows. Like,
unbelievable.
I'm gonna go back to the thing, but I would like to say I've never met you in person. I don't think. So,
well, I did once or twice, but only at your house because my son went to your daycare. Went to the home daycare.
I'm aware that I was usually at work. I don't know, but it's a long time ago.
You were there.
I will say that I think
Justin.
I think maybe this
I was
is a
going
good
to say that's a
opportunity
few years ago.
for me to say.
I'm going to take off.
In recent happenings on Facebook and social media, which not on a whole lot actually, but there has been some pretty negative connotations on people on my side of things towards you, and I think that the exact opposite of that on people on your side of things towards me have been pretty negative and nasty as well. And I think that coming into today and having you come up and initiate a conversation with me, I haven't found this to be problematic or confrontational or an issue. I do think that maybe both of us, or some of our friends on both sides, have maybe pushed us to think that I should see you as some sort of enemy or vice versa.
I don't want to. I think you know that there's a serious issue that I'm not going to say right now because your kid is standing behind you, and I don't want him to.
Because what?
Well, your son's standing behind you.
Okay.
I don't want to talk about his mother. Like,
the issue is, I think with what you're talking about, I think you're assuming that I agree with some mentality.
Well, I mean, there was some serious actions taken.
That by one individual.
No, I mean, I saw the evidence. No, Sam told me.
Okay.
So no, I heard it. I heard it directly from the horse's mouth. I'm aware of that, but you guys are a family unit. So honestly, like, how do you disagree with the way that Matt was treated?
Do I disagree with the way that was treated.
Because Sam said that you were okay with it. Sam straight out said that you didn't want Matt around the children anymore.
I think that there's a lot going on there, and there's two very large sides to a very long story.
I mean, she made it pretty clear through the things that she said about how she felt about
talking
it.
about a scenario that is a feud between two siblings that
It's more, no,
has
that
grown
is,
into something way more than
that was not just a
It has
feud.
nothing at all to do
That
with
is a
it.
cop-out. That was
We've read what she said to
discrimination.
We've seen what
She
said to Matt.
discriminated against him.
She pushed him out.
She
of the
pushed him
business
out of the
for being
business
trans.
and out of the
No,
family.
that's not true, actually.
I know about the other stuff. I've heard the whole story. Like, I know that it had to do, like I honestly have heard the whole thing, and I know it wasn't like 100% about that, and then there was arguments at the end about how COVID should be dealt with and all of those things.
Have you
But
have
I've been,
siblings?
yes.
Have you ever had an argument with one of them?
No, this is not the same thing as having a regular argument with your sibling. I'm sorry, but
I
no.
heard you out. Have you ever had an argument with one of your siblings?
Yeah.
Is that anybody else's business?
It is when discrimination is involved.
And you're assuming that.
No, I'm not assuming. It's pretty clear what happened.
we know
It's
exactly
pretty clear what happened. So are you saying that Sam didn't? I don't want to talk about it this way.
You want to say something you can't say to him?
No, I don't want to.
You don't want to talk shit
I
about his
no,
mom
I
in front of her.
exactly. I didn't want
just-
to.
it's
That
just
just
not
felt like that was
necessary.
rude. I didn't
Your
want to do
son's
that.
here.
Well, my
I'm
son's
18.
a grown up.
I'm an adult, dude.
Yeah. I'm sorry if that was wrong. I thought that was the right. Was that wrong? I didn't.
I don't even know what this
I didn't
is.
want to talk about.
I'm assuming.
I think you do know what it is. You know exactly what I'm talking
Talking
about.
about the feud between Sam and Matt.
I don't know anything about that. Like literally nothing.
But again, it has nothing to do with me, and I took no part whatsoever in it. And I think there's probably.
Well, you
a
were
lot of
definitely
people-
used, and it was told that you were behind it and okay with it, and that you didn't want Matt being around your children.
Well, okay, so all right, there's an awful lot of you asking me to speak to something that I wasn't there for, I don't know about. I can say that my last interaction with Matt was to text and say, I'm going to be in the area of your home tomorrow for a job site for work. I have some Christmas gifts for your daughter. I'm trying to be careful not to use names. Do you mind if I drop them off? And the text I got back was, sure, that'd be fine. And then when I was close by, I texted and said, hey, I'm 10 minutes down the road.
Yeah,
Is now a
you
good
had
time?
a nice moment of civility that doesn't take away from everything else that
that's not
happens.
true.
It
I didn't
doesn't.
have one nice moment of civility. This is someone who I considered for years a sister, and I know is now identifying as a man. I don't mean that in offense at all, but for 8.5, 9 years of my life, that was my sister-in-law. It is now, I guess, my brother-in-law. But I have no problem with Matt. I don't have any issue with Matt, and I think that a lot of the issues that happen between Matt and Sam really have nothing to do with what this conversation tries to make it about. Do they have a disagreement? Yes. Has there been issues? Sure, but I don't think even half of it is related to what some people would like to say that it's related to.
So what? I don't.
Matt himself.
What do you think that? What do you think that we're trying to relate it to?
What?
That was a little bit of word salad there at the end. What were you trying to say? That
What is this direction? I'm just curious. Like, just,
well, that
Because there's this whole group of people that feel like they have
because
ammunition
Sam
against me somehow
because
because
Sam
of that.
discriminated against her brother because he was transitioning because he was transgender.
I don't know anything.
Kicked him
about
out of the and I have a child that is transgender. I have lots of friends that are transgender. Rob is running for the school committee. I'm concerned that the whole community is not going to be served if you have people on the school committee that feel that would treat a transgender person that way. And we
treated
have
any transgender person anyway.
see, but the transgender person in question feels differently. So you can say that you didn't treat them, but that's
Okay,
not.
so all right, without saying Sam, and without asking me about.
But you guys are a family unit.
No, I'm
Yes,
an individual. My name is Rob. I get my own point of view. If you're going to ask me about me, I will answer you. If you're going to ask me about Sam,
So okay, I'm asking you: was Sam wrong for what she
no,
did?
you have to ask me about my opinion.
In your opinion, was Sam wrong about what she did?
We're not in a court here.
Okay, so that's it.
So that's it.
So that's it.
So that wait. So that's the deciding factor. If I disagree with one person and agree with another person, that's it. There's no gray area. It's white or.
I mean, we were giving you the opportunity to have a gray area. You
no,
just
the
said
gray
that.
area would be is it's okay for people to disagree.
No, what?
No, it's okay for people to disagree, but it's not okay to discriminate against people.
I am
particular.
not discriminating against anybody.
I didn't say you, but you know. See,
You're
now you're
condoning it.
word salading again. Now you're spinning.
You're making my school committee run about somebody else's supposed supposed to.
No, I'm making
I
your
don't
school
want my
committee.
little brother in a school with a school committee that hates trans people.
Okay.
Because you know we have problems with Andy Caradelli too.
Yeah, right.
Because
No,
listen,
wait,
you
this
don't
is
you
very
don't
simple.
know.
This is very simple.
something that's been going on for a
Wait,
really long
right.
time.
This
There's
is
a lot of
easy.
evidence
This is
involved in
easy.
it.
What did you just say?
I don't want my little brother in a school with a school committee with a transphobic person on it.
Because you're assuming that I would discriminate against someone transphobic.
You from what you said.
Someone trans.
You've condoned what Sam did to Matt, and you don't see an issue with it. Is that right or wrong?
Your understanding of what happened is inaccurate. That's the problem.
But I
don't know. We're pretty privy to quite a bit of information.
And
We've seen and I've talked to Sam.
Okay.
Sam, I spoke to her directly, so I did not just hear it from one person.
What she said directly.
Okay.
You're expecting me to trust you at your word compared to what I know, and
Let's get Sam here.
Right.
No, because you're saying.
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
Listen, guys, I was just, because I don't know the story and I'm kind of like part of it and I feel awkward, but what I want to say is this. Look, like we came to this event, right? And I came, for example, literally with so much, I know it sounds like a little sappy, but I really did come with so much like I wanted to experience people. Like I wanted to see people, I wanted to hug people, like, if you don't want to like hug people because you're nervous at the moment, like I completely understand, but those who want to hug me, I want to hug them, right? It's like a very human basic desire for connection, right? And actually having an opportunity to learn something about someone or have a conversation, right? We haven't really had quite enough of it, right, in the past year. So I come here and all these people meet me, right, that are screaming in my face, right, and saying basically that I'm a hateful, I don't know what, right? Now, we definitely don't know each other, like, right? I'm not talking about you right now. I'm talking about like the crowd that came with this self-righteous.
I mean, honestly, because when I walked in, people harassed us too for wearing masks. So it goes both ways. It does. Who? They told us to get away from the tables, that they didn't want us over there. Some lady gave Phoenix a hard time about wearing nail polish at a Freedom Festival. No, people have definitely come up to us, and but that's what I'm saying. That stuff goes both ways in every single situation. And I've been to many rallies in many different towns up and down the coast in the past couple of months. And something too that you probably don't understand, and a lot of people don't understand this. Like, there were a lot of people that went to Diana Ploss rallies that was sponsored by her that didn't even really know who she was, so they didn't understand why there was so much vitriol. They didn't understand that they walked into a situation that they didn't really know what was going on at, and then you had another group of people that were counter protesters that were there for a reason. And I talked to a lot of them. They're like, I don't understand why you guys are so mad. We're just standing here with Trump flags. I was like, I know you don't. I was like, do you know who this woman is? And they were like, well, no, not really. And I was like, see, you walked into the lion's den here because I know that you didn't know that you were associating yourself with her, but since you're here at an event that she sponsored, you're being associated with her.
Yeah, in this.
Oh, I know. What do I not understand?
Well, I mean, I know you probably would do a better job. But my point is, everybody that has had anything to do with planning this event, right, is a family person, freedom-loving person. That's the whole theme. Freedom. That's it.
I know, but do you not think that the other people here that are angry aren't family people and freedom-loving people?
No, my point is, if you came here because you wanted to support the freedom, right? Like you may not agree with whoever, right? But you're saying, so if I were you, right, and somebody says, why are you wearing a nail polish? I'm sorry, it's none of your business, right? No offense. It has nothing to do with how you identify, right?
The idea that we can all be friends in this situation,
yeah.
and like not you specifically, but like with a lot of people over there, that we can all get along and find common ground. It's kind of bullshit, and it comes from a place of privilege, because my position is...
I'm sorry, like the way you just formulated things, and please don't take offense, but it literally sounds like you've downloaded that from somewhere, and you think that's your thought, but I really don't believe it.
See, honestly, that's an offensive thing for you to say.
But I will say the same thing about myself, right? I will say, okay, how do I, like, remember when we were talking about vaccines, right? For the longest time, I don't know, I was like 35 when I realized that something's wrong with this topic. For the longest time, like if somebody said vaccines are safe and effective, I was like, yeah, I know that, right? It's a sound bite, literally, that literally gives...
Okay, but you just told...
Let me finish.
Go ahead.
I'm talking from my personal experience as someone who is part of a marginalized community.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I'm going to grab my water.
Like, this is something that
No. It's not the media because these are people that we're having personal interactions with. It's not the media. Racism is real. Trans hate is real. The media doesn't have to make all those things.
Not the media.
I don't know, but you're telling him now that the way that he's feeling is possibly invalid because it's a sound out on the
I
media.
think what she was trying to say is that it sounded like it was possible that the way you articulated what you're feeling sounded a little bit rubber stamped or downloaded, copied and pasted.
Well, I mean,
And she's asking you to please be careful and make sure that you are expressing yourself the way that you feel.
I think I know, but honestly that comes off as a little bit condescending.
And I think the concern for that is...
39. He could be my kid.
No, I know. I mean, like I said, we're the same age, and he is my kid. So, I mean, we're not like
what I would ask you to do in all of this is that you and I probably disagree on some things, and we might even agree on some things. I don't know because I don't really know you, but I try to live a life in such a way that I don't assume to know anybody up there.
I mean, I actually do know people up there, so I mean, like
I know. But the vast majority of them, whether they're holding a Black Lives Matter sign or a peace sign or anything over there, most of those people I don't know. So if I was going to engage in a conversation with any of them, I'm going to do whatever I can. I'm not always successful. I'm judgmental too sometimes. Is to engage those people with an open mind and not go into it assuming that you know they're going to disagree with you.
But again, that's kind of condescending if you don't think that we do that.
I'm talking about me. I said that's what I try to do, and I said specifically that I don't always succeed. I'm talking about me.
Because some people, let's be real, some people you can't talk to.
100%
on both sides. Exactly. And a lot of the times they don't want to talk because they're filled with hatred and vitriol. No, of course not.
That's how you learn how some people are and how others aren't, and you find common ground with people. I'll tell you right now.
I'm not interested in common ground with them.
With certain people, with like super happy fun America type of people, like no. I know you don't know, but we know.
I'm sorry?
You said something about you're in a different type of privilege.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The rubber stamp is the part about privilege.
I know that you hear that
People are saying it because
it's a real thing.
Because it's a real thing.
People are repeating.
So do you? No. Sometimes again, that's extremely condescending to just assume. It is. Hold on, because now you're cutting me off. It is extremely condescending to assume that just because he used a word that other people have used, that it's not his own thought.
You recognize patterns, like you can't help it, right? Like I'm just
because there are people saying that I agree.
And honestly, and if it's a statement that makes sense,
but it doesn't make sense.
So are you saying that there's no such thing as privilege?
Here's what I'm saying.
You don't think that that's
a privileged standpoint?
It is a privileged standpoint in and of itself.
Here's the big point.
So we talked. Hold on one second, because we talked earlier about systematic racism. Do you think that exists?
Where?
I think it exists in a different way than what's
everywhere.
No, I don't think it exists everywhere.
Did it ever exist? Did it ever exist?
Can I tell you?
Sure.
There is a
So when did it stop?
racism against majority of people on this planet. It depends.
I mean, so you don't think that there's systemic? Do you not think there's systemic racism like in this area?
I mean,
Do you don't think that black?
I haven't seen any sign of that. No.
I don't know anyone personally.
I mean, you have to separate those.
Because I know systemic racism isn't just about like a personal. It's
those
about
two words together. You can't say systemic and racism because all that does is make it a blanket concept and belief.
Yeah,
because it is.
because it does.
But I do think
Yes.
Systemic
Systemic.
means that it's everywhere.
It means
it is.
and that it originates from the government, and that it does.
so if it's everywhere,
It
are you
does.
racist?
I think everybody has their own internal biases. Everybody does.
Okay, so if
Systemic is about the system, though.
Systemic isn't just about our individual. It's about
It's the system.
the government system.
The system works against people of color. I mean, we all
It
know
works
that.
against all people. who
It
don't
does.
have social connections.
And you're not wrong
does
about that.
both.
And it's a
The government
socioeconomic
does
class
hate
thing.
poor people. You're absolutely right.
But
you
it
know what
hates
the
poor
most?
black people
Poor
even
black
most.
people.
You know what? Whatever you focus on is what you're going to get. If that's what you project,
No,
that's
we're
what's gonna
not.
come back to you.
No,
That is a universal
no.
law.
So
You saying systemic racism is real makes it real. Is
Because
that what
you
you're saying?
are making it real. You create
Like, are you fucking
what
serious?
comes
I
to you.
know, like-
So if you're seeing it and experiencing it, it's because of you.
So
Because
okay,
what
so the
you
discrimination
focus
that
on
I
is what
face
comes
as
So-
a trans person
so-
is my fault.
So racism is, so if somebody is
okay,
racist,
so transphobia is my fault because I focus on it.
Exactly.
but he
Yeah, he
said
said
racism.
I said whatever you focus on.
So,
It's a law of the universe.
so no one is ever a victim of
What
circumstance.
you create, it's magnetic.
That's privilege. You are able
Okay,
to say that
so then
because
you're
you're
gonna
not
go
a
around and you're gonna
minority
say,
and you're
"I'm
not
not
experiencing
privileged."
this.
Look,
To say just focus on happiness, dude. I'm scared of
No,
getting
it's
my
not
rights taken
being-
away.
It's
I can
a
get
lens.
kicked out of my doctor's
It's a lens
office
that you
for
look
being-
at.
You're scared, dude. You're mad about wearing a mask.
Oh my god.
Mad
We're
at
not
all.
mad. We're happy we don't have to.
Right.
You know why? Because we have a choice.
See,
You're just trying to back us into a corner.
no, honestly, that's not true.
You think that you have to wear a mask,
what-
and we
what-
realize
See,
that
because
it's
now
a choice.
we got to a point of disagreement, so they're just gonna scream at us and tell us everything that everything is that we're saying is wrong.
What I've been
I mean, there was yelling. There was
What I've
yelling.
been trying to say for 10 minutes, hold on, is that if you had walked over there today, like that, there was a show where they had people dating they couldn't see each other, okay? If we could learn to interact with people we don't know for the first 10 minutes without being able to see them and just having a conversation, getting to know who they are as a person in their mind and in their heart and the way they feel, then you might find common ground with some people you may not expect.
I don't think that doesn't have anything to do with systemic racism or anything, though.
It has to do with
are
creating
intrinsically
some
part of who you are
Why
as a
does everything
person.
have to be me versus somebody or somebody versus somebody?
We don't think that everything is against everybody, but there are situations where people are against other people.
but why-
And it's because they exist. See, now that comes from a place of privilege because it's not about focus. People are being affected by it. So they have to recognize that it's occurring because it's occurring to
It
them.
doesn't come from privilege that I would rather spend the afternoon having a nice conversation with you and learning something about you instead of arguing about stuff like this.
It comes from
But I
privilege
can't-
because you think that it doesn't
but I-
exist. Because it doesn't.
What doesn't exist?
Things like systemic racism and privilege.
You heard me on tape
Because
saying it does 5 minutes ago. Don't put words in my mouth. I said, sure, I think systemic.
But you guys just right here a second ago said that it wasn't real.
You said that we made it
I
up
said
and that by
rare.
focusing on
But
it,
you
we
said
make
it's like,
I didn't say that.
what's the definition of systemic racism? It's when the system, government, organizations, police do things like to negatively affect black communities, and yeah, basically,
Right.
systemic racism.
So, where does it come from?
our decades-old history of us of slavery
who's
and
the
indigenous
person-
It's a
genocide.
perpetuate. is really
Who's the person that is putting the capital into funding the oppositions for systemic racism to exist?
Are you asking us to name a specific person?
Yes.
That's so beyond what it's systemic.
It's not about,
so there's-
and it has existed. It's existed for
It's ingrained.
decades.
in our
It's ingrained in the system. Yeah, it always has been.
Not in my world.
Allison, because so what she's talking about when I was talking about commodifying people,
right.
right? So
can't see it
a lot of
because
what's
you have
happening
your
right now is that people are literally being.
I mean, yeah.
That's the most bizarre perspective I've
Well,
ever
no,
seen.
it's because you don't understand it because
Oh,
of
right, 'cause I
privilege.
have an experience and you know nothing about me that I have never experienced.
Well, you haven't experienced racism,
Oh, I haven't?
have you?
Well, how do you know? You just told me.
Because
I didn't.
you're white, correct?
Are you white?
No, I'm not white, as a matter of fact.
Okay, so
Wait, that was racist.
no,
exactly.
it was
You
not
said you're
asked.
white, correct?
Right. And you also
That's
said that
racist.
you also
That's
said
not
that I'm
racist.
No. No.
All right.
It's
what
it's not
happens.
racist.
When you
I mean,
project-
that was like a straightforward.
That's a distraction.
All right,
Literally.
let's-
Yeah,
While
this
we're
is.
doing
This is crazy.
I completely appreciate what we're doing it, but at the same time, I feel like, okay, so how much of your precious life energy, right? Like you were born as a miracle, right? Like your mother was putting all her life and energy into you, right? And here you are, ready to do whatever it is that you want to do in this world, right? And look, we literally have you, for example, let's say you have an ability, I don't know, to be an amazing artist, or music, whatever it is that you want to do, right? Instead of that, you're literally getting distracted by the education system that says there's this white privilege, you need to fight against it, right? And mind you, you're not even old enough really to have a perspective on humanity.
Well, I mean, I'm old enough to, and I absolutely see that there is privilege in the system. And I didn't need the media or anybody else to tell me because I see it happen with my own eyes.
I choose to put my energy into learning and doing it because it means something to me. Just like you're here talking about it to mean something to
Take
you.
time to learn, right? So my point is, right now I feel like they're literally weaponizing the youth by saying you gotta, basically fill your mind with all this like fight, right? Which I completely understand.
No
that
one told me
everybody-
I honestly don't think that you're right.
Listen, I have an 11-year-old neighbor, okay, a little girl. You know what she says to me? She says, Karina, I would never disagree with my teacher in a classroom, like about something. Like her mom, let's say, tells her about something, like some perspective on history, right? Like they're from Russia also, right? And everyone has some perspective on whatever, right? Like something is like not a good development, right? Well, the 11-year-old knows not to say something against what the teacher is saying, because the teacher might send her for mental evaluation because her point of view would not be popular. An 11-year-old understands that she would be ridiculed because her opinion would not be popular. Talk about discrimination.
Well, what type of opinion? What are we talking about
here?
here?
The fact that communism is not a wonderful thing, right? I mean, they've experienced communism.
A school is not teaching kids that communism is a wonderful thing.
Okay, I graduated last year from high school. Literally never was a person in my class.
Yeah, I have another kid.
Any side. There was never a time where anybody couldn't have said anything.
Did you go to high school?
I went to Plymouth North High School.
They're not teaching that communism is a good thing.
Good.
Yeah, I agree. But I'm just like, I'm not her 11-year-old neighbor. Like, I mean.
We're not saying you are. That's what I mean. I don't.
But I mean, the implication
well,
that
we definitely disagree
on something. There was a few disagreements.
So how do you resolve systemic racism?
Yeah, what do we do about it?
Right.
Let's say
dismantle the system and rebuild it in a better way.
Okay, so how do you do that?
For example, I've heard about dismantling the whole country, right? Like America should not exist. I've heard that. Do you guys agree with that? Is that
what, that America shouldn't exist?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
That's a really broad statement to like agree with or disagree with.
I heard this in the same breath, right? Dismantle the system. America should not exist.
Your lights
build back better.
I don't know. Yeah, build back better. Right? Like.
Build
you know what I
back
mean? Like,
better,
where do
right?
we, like, how do we actually make
I mean, I think capitalism is step
there's honestly,
abolishing capitalism.
Yeah,
So what system do you think works better? And why do you think? And do you honestly think, and this is respectfully, do you honestly think at the age of 18, right, with mom advising or anybody or teacher, right, like, because we all have overprotective. Like, I'm 39, honestly, I don't pretend that I know how to run things, right? I don't even know how to run a little company really well yet, right? I mean, I'm running one company, but, you know, I wouldn't pretend that I know really. So my point is, do you honestly think that you know how to do things better? And if you don't know, whom would you put your trust? Yeah. Whom would you put your trust in? Like if you got to vote for someone, right? Like say somebody comes on the stage, right, and says, okay, I gotta build a system, right? Just vote for me, right? What would you, as an 18-year-old, right, personally, what kind of due diligence, right, would you be doing to say to yourself, okay, I've really examined what this person is about, right? What they're about to do, because this is really going to affect millions of people, right? This could either destroy people, right, or really elevate, right, and it just could really like bring, you know, this country to this wonderful renaissance, right? Or it could really, like, for example, right now I'm very concerned, and I don't mean to make it political, but for example, the current administration, right? Let's say they say we're gonna mask you all up, we're gonna vaccinate everybody and their mother, right? And they think it's a great idea. Now, my friend's son, 32-year-old, just died from Johnson & Johnson vaccine on March 13th, right? I'm not happy with anybody, any politician, no matter how much I like them or dislike them, right? Telling me or anyone else that they must have a vaccine.
Did somebody force them to take the vaccine?
No, but they will. That's my point, right? Because look,
I mean, you're saying you don't know that.
You know why I know this? Because
it got stopped, correct?
Rita, I gotta send you information because I honestly, I'm not making this up. I wish I was making.
No, you can send me I do, and like we're not stupid people just running around banging our heads up against the walls. You know what I'm saying?
You are, exactly.
We do read, we do look, we do our due diligence. You know, so I mean, I'm not against like reading what you send me. That's totally fine.
My point is that look, so when you read the World Health Organization and the World Economic Forum papers, like, you know, they plans, right, for sustainable development goals, it sounds so good. Like, for example, I knew nothing about climate change, right? I was just like, yeah, climate change, whatever, right? So I didn't think it was an emergency, quote unquote, but I see a lot of people like being really up in arms. So I was like, okay, let me look into it, right? So I learned a lot about, you know, the side that says, oh my God, it's an emergency, right? And then I read the other side.
Yeah, but it's 97% of all of the scientists involved in climate change agree that there's a problem. So you can find the 3% of people that don't agree.
Rita, do you know the level of corruption in academia? Because I do.
Do you know the problem?
It's amazing, the level of corruption, the level of going along, right? Like say you're a student, right? And you go to university and you really want to learn the science. Like you're actually a very honest person, right? Who really wants to get, like, objectively, right? How's it going? I mean, what's going on? If your teacher or professor says, you know, I really don't like the direction you took with that thesis, right? Because you were sort of alleging that maybe like spraying aluminum is causing some climate change, right? But that's not the reason, right? It's the palace, right? Like the professor says, that's what it is, right? Because I'm the professor, trust me, right? That kind of thing. And you kind of get a hunch, right? You're like, wait, but we don't really have any evidence, right? That this aluminum stuff is healthy because aluminum is neurotoxic and it's being sprayed from the sky, right? So you're like, I don't understand why, right? Like you just want to know, right? You're just asking questions. And instead of being encouraged to ask a question, right, which you would think would be the academic thing to do, right? Instead of that, you get penalized somehow. Like, for example, you don't get sneaks or you don't get to get a grant, right? Or something.
That's the same with the teacher in the school.
But not the teacher. It's systematic. That's what I call systematic racism, right? It's basically discrimination, systemic discrimination against people who dare to question, who dare to want to do independent asking, you know what I mean? Not to go with the flow because it pays, you know what I mean? Because if Bill Gates is willing to finance anybody who says climate change exists, right? And you're a young person, you want to build, you know, like you just want to build a life, right? You like, you know, you want to buy.
So are you of the opinion that climate change doesn't exist?
Climate changes all the time. But do you know about geoengineering program that has been going on from the 40s? Do you know Lyndon Johnson is on tape literally saying that once we control the weather, we control the world? Right. Lyndon Johnson, the president Lyndon Johnson. Right?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of.
Doesn't you? No,
wouldn't you want? I mean, that.
Rita, does anybody tell you, like, you know, like how?
I mean, do you guys believe that, like, the snow in Texas wasn't real because it wouldn't burn?
I don't know about snow in Texas, but I do know that.
I know. I'm just asking.
That's not what that was.
No, geoengineering is causing anomalies.
But I'm just saying that they thought that the government took control of the weather and put fake snow.
That's in the atmosphere, and then when it attaches itself to the snow, so when you heat it up, it doesn't melt.
It never melts. It turns into a gas.
Right.
That's how snow always works.
Right.
But I'm just saying that the people there.
Plastic doesn't sublime, so that's not what he's talking about.
Thank you so much.
If you take a lighter to snow, I'm talking about in this particular situation in Texas. You are aware that there was a whole bunch of people running around.
That's been going on for a long time.
Yeah.
Texas didn't start the no melt.
No, and people are. It got a lot of attention lately because a bunch of idiots are running around making fucking TikTok videos.
Right.
But because you brought up the thing, that's what those people really thought.
He's talking about HAARP and like the weather modification machines.
No, I know. I've heard of HAARP. I'm familiar with it. I'm familiar with it.
For example, as an honest, like, young scientist, right, or student, right, science student, you basically, if you dare to go against, just like with medicine, I mean, I've experienced this, you know, so many examples, like specific examples, right, when people honestly want to just do science, they don't want to do politics, right? Guess what? They get a choice. Either you go with the flow, or you don't work here anymore.
Right, you don't get funded.
That's systemic discrimination, right? But in the world's possible way, in the sense that basically it doesn't matter what color you are, right? You don't get to be an honest anything. You get to be a compliant, obedient person. That's when you get rewarded, right? That's my problem with this whole like setup. You see what I mean? Because if I'm
that's
wrong,
like fine, but that doesn't negate the existence of systemic racism. I'm not.
Look, you have to stop using those words because they're
we don't have to stop using those words
because they don't. They do not express.
They're not the only conversation.
Perspective.
No, we know it's not the only conversation. But it was a conversation that we were talking
If she
about.
was just comment about something else and you bring it back to that.
Racism, though, how do you fix the problem?
I think that if it was easy to fix it, we would have already fixed it.
Rita, I have a question actually.
You know?
Remember when people were like kneeling, you know, like the whole kneeling thing? So I found to be extremely disrespectful to black people, first and foremost. You know why? Because my friends who are black, I hug them. I have no, like, I can't even conceive an idea under what circumstances my friends who consider me an equal, right, who consider me a friend, would like me to kneel in front of them. Like, that just blows my mind. It's just like so disrespectful.
Kneeling for the flag wasn't about kneeling. It wasn't about kneeling for black people.
It's theatrical, do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's insincere, it's disingenuous, right?
I mean, there are black people who didn't like it. That's totally.
I mean, black people aren't a monolith, you know. There's always going to be people of different
Like,
opinions.
when people respect each other, they hug each other, right? They actually care about each other. They don't do this theatrical bullshit that's really serving the political.
I mean, you think it's theatrical? I don't feel that way. So,
how would this conversation fix it?
so what's the point of any conversation if we all die tomorrow?
If this, right, exactly my point. This whole conversation about systemic racism does nothing because there's no actions being taken to fix systemic.
No, there is actions being taken. There are actions being there. People are pushing for the change of laws and the change the system.
The laws exist. You just don't know.
Well, I think that
there's laws there. I mean, there's laws in the federal U.S. code that are specific to what law enforcement and what government can do onto its people. Black, white, doesn't matter. The laws are there. I know because
they're not being enforced. Correct.
They're not being enforced by people such as.
Okay, so people that are going out and demanding that those laws be enforced and that we change other laws.
File the 1813-242 statute against the officer that's making a violation. So I did it. Go out there and do it. Sitting in a field, debating and getting confrontational with people.
But you're here too.
But
we're not being confrontational with anybody.
Right. You were here.
I wasn't confrontational with anybody.
We're not accusing anybody.
Yeah, it's not.
There are people who are.
The general movement that came here, okay? The Black Lives Matter.
Like that. Like hearing that thing, that sound while people are trying to talk is that's purely disrespectful.
I mean, it's purely disrespectful to have Super Happy Fun America here, in my opinion, and I would sit there and make noise and block out everything that they're saying too. So I don't.
That's discriminatory.
It's
everybody.
It's a freedom rally, and it's not discriminatory. Not liking people based on the context of their character is not discrimination. It is just good sense. Period.
Look,
That's not discrimination.
This is what always happens. You take one minuscule idea and then make that like the whole topic, and this is the problem all along. You can't just take something and focus on it. You know why Black lives don't matter? Because you're looking at black people.
We don't actually take one. We don't actually take one issue. We actually
see black people.
You can't not see black people. You can't not see black people.
Black people as black.
You see them as different.
You don't have to see them as black. You see them as people.
By their color.
Well, but that's
once you start throwing those things in there,
it's like culture too. You have to respect.
People. Culture's not color.
It shouldn't be
we're
all.
What you focus on is what happens.
I love that I'm individual. I love my individuality. I don't want to be the same with anyone. Exactly.
No, exactly.
Yeah, but my point is, look, like what I was saying before, right? If somebody gave you a hard time,
no human beings and human species
you
on a
respect
planet
that
that have to
person,
have
right? But respectfully, you just say,
well, I mean, they're on. I mean, you guys think about? I know.
Derek just got like hit.
What?
Derek got hit.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
What's going on? Is the police involved?
Do you think they actually did something?
What?
You should have known.
Nothing happened. Yeah. He called, the guy called Derek's squad bag flag.
Oh,
and
okay.
then, like, went after him and, like...
I mean, like, so here we go right here. So somebody just said, one of my friends that has a trans flag over there, one of the people in this group just walked by and said, that's your fag flag.
Fag flag. And
so,
his phone right out of his hand.
So I'm just saying, did he ask for that because he was focused on...
Because he had a gay flag?
Because he had a gay flag, or did it just happen because that person was a fucking asshole, and assholes exist, and assholes just do shitty things sometimes?
Exactly. Assholes exist.
Okay, but it wasn't that Derek was focused on the situation and that happening to him. It was because somebody else took it upon themselves to do it, correct?
So
that's the point that I'm making. No, I don't think you're not even following the conversation.
Okay.
No, there are. Nobody is saying that. You see, like they're not understanding. They're not. I know. I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go.
I think we appreciate the openness, at least that we can have conversations.
Right? I hope to connect with them whoever email me. Okay, I'll send you because I really.
Oh yeah, your email's on this whole thing.
Yeah. This Elsa McDowell thing is like honestly really eye-opening, and she did such
that's great that you have
homework. You know what I mean? Like it would take me years to do homework, and I'm really grateful for people like her. Basically, she's a mother. She doesn't work for any foundation. You know what I mean? Like she doesn't serve any special interest. She just wants to know for her own child's sake, right? Like what's happening in the world, right? So just kind of get an idea. But yeah, honestly, I think at the end of the day, I think for example, this is my guess, I don't know, but I think if people start coming together and they start saying, I'm for police freedom, by the way, I happen to be gay, welcome, right? Or I happen to be I'm Armenian, right? Like when I moved to this country, right? I mean, I felt like an outsider all the time, even though it's a melting pot, right? It's America, right? I'm from Russia, I'm Armenian. Even in Russia, I felt like, a bit of an outsider because I was not Russian, right? But honestly, in my life, by the way, I mean, it might look like my life was a privilege. It wasn't. My life was a freaking nightmare the first about 10 years of my life, okay? So, I mean...
Well, having white privilege doesn't mean that your life isn't hard. It just means that it's not more difficult because of the color of it. That's all that's what I'm saying.
I've had my face pounded in.
But that doesn't... It doesn't... having white privilege doesn't mean that those things don't happen.
Right.
It just means that you said
like that's the thing. Like even my friends in the straight hood, like they're not sitting here like, oh, bro, you're white privilege. Like, I don't know anybody.
I mean, it's not something.
I grew up like in Fall River.
If you want to.
I'd like to address something to you. You're not taped, but I'll have it right here with this conversation. Would that be okay?
I mean, I guess so. I don't.
I want to go back to something, but it's a personal matter that I'd rather deal with. 20 minutes ago, Matt walked